So, I went to go see Oblivion, the new Tom Cruise movie, and I liked it. It was a lot of fun. You know, it's sort of hard to get much into it without sort of spoiling things, so I'll kind of stay away from the plot. But suffice to say, the plot isn't really all that original. It's about, you know, at least three, probably more, other sci-fi movies kind of meshed together into one. And you know, in spite of that, it works. It's just taking elements from different stories and weaving them together, rather than sort of grabbing huge chunks like you know, like Avatar kind of did. It doesn't paint with just one brush. It takes little dabs, little flourishes from several different movies, which works. I mean, you're going through, you're watching like, oh, that's from 2001. Oh, that's from Independence Day. Oh, that's from well, that's a spoiler if I get into that. But still, it's kind of obvious where they're coming from. But it's just so pretty to watch, and it's not just a series of action set pieces strung together with no dialogue or real plot in between. It's mostly scenery, then dialogue and plot, and then sort of action scenes interspersed, which is nice and refreshing. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a thinking sci-fi film like Moon or Solaris or 2001. But it kind of wants to think it is. You know, and if you just sort of let it have its fun, and not overanalyze things too much, you'll enjoy it. And I know that's kind of silly coming from my rant about Olympus Has Fallen, but with a sci-fi movie, for me, you kind of have to go into it with a higher level of suspension of disbelief, so I can ignore the fact that some of the things that happen in Oblivion, there's no reason for them to happen whatsoever. You know, I can gripe about them after the fact, but it doesn't really pull me out of the movie as much as the issues in Olympus Has Fallen pulled me out. So I can kind of let them slide more in a science fiction movie, or even a more realistic movie that's meant to be a comedy or something like that. I can let them slide too. But yeah, I can ignore a lot of the more blatant plot holes in Oblivion. And if you can do that, if you can go into a sci-fi movie and ignore things like, oh hey, why would aliens come to Earth for resources when there's plenty of other planets that they could go to for resources that don't have life on it? If you can avoid things like that, then you know you're good to go with Oblivion. But yeah, it was fun. A little derivative, but still enjoyable to watch. I'll admit, maybe I went into it with a little bit lower expectations, because quite frankly, when I saw that the director, Joseph Kosinski, was also one of the writers and one of the producers, and it was based off of an unfinished or unpublished graphic novel of his, red flags went up. And I'll admit that. Because anytime you see that many hats on one head in a movie, I immediately start being a little bit dubious. The only way it gets even more blatant is if they're also one of the stars of the movie. Like The Room. But yeah. No, and also a little bit lower expectations because he's also the same guy who did Tron, who directed Tron, the remake. And, you know, that was a beautiful movie, fantastic visuals, good soundtrack. But the plot, not so fantastic, nothing terrible, but nothing to write home about either. Kind of the same thing here. You know, really pretty, really pretty. A lot of focus on beautiful scenery and the really cool, really sleek science, the little drone robots and the house in the clouds on the very top of this like tripod. Basically built this gigantic tripod that the main character's house sits on, and it rests, hundreds of feet in the sky for I don't really know why. I guess the idea is that they have to have a camera to sort of survey the area that I don't know. But yeah, it is what it is. If you feel like seeing a science fiction movie with a little bit of action in it, with really pretty special effects, good visuals, decent acting from Tom Cruise. He plays the likable Tom Cruise character, and good acting from everyone else involved. Morgan Freeman has one of the sort of top billings, and he has a big important part in the trailers, but he's important in it, but he's not in it for very long. There's really only about 6 speaking roles in the entire thing, but they're all done well. Although there's the control, one of the human giving the main character's orders from orbit, who has the most fake sounding to me southern accents. Doesn't sound like any of the real southern accents that I've run across in a while, but that happens a lot with southern accents in movies. Maybe I just never lived in the right part of the South. That could be it too. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. You generally won't feel like you wasted your money, unless, as I said, you're looking for, big giant action flick, which this isn't. Or if you're one of those folks who watches a science fiction movie and goes, the aliens wouldn't go there. They don't need XYZ resource. You could just mine the asteroids. Or if that's you, you're gonna have a hell of a time with Oblivion. But otherwise, if you just kind of want to see a more slow-paced, plot-heavy science fiction movie, a little bit derivative though it may be, you'll enjoy Oblivion. Anywho.